Hey, what's up, what's up, what's up, what's up, what's up? Oh, gracious, good morning to you good people. It's your girl KB. You know what I do, and you know why I do it. It's Thursday morning. It's April 16th, and it is 3:11 in the a.m. Man, let me tell you what I was thinking about as I walked from my parking spot to my office. You know, I love the city that I live in. You know, when I first moved to Cali, I'm a native New Yorker, y'all. Not from the boroughs, but from Western New York. But when I first moved to Cali, I moved to a town that was masquerading as a city. I grew up in a house where there was domestic violence, and in my teen years, we begged my mother to leave my father because he was just ridiculous. You know, the level of depravity from that side of the family cannot be measured. But my mom moved to Cali because that's where her brother was living. And that was the only living relative that was close to mom. So we followed a year later. I had finished high school and went on to live with my mother. That's a story for a different time. But that city was masquerading, or that town was masquerading as a city. It was still in the process of developing. You know, it was more agrarian than cosmopolitan. Very racist. Extremely racist. Pretty much still is. You know, all the black folks, or the majority of black people, lived on one side of town. And coming from New York into California, my assumption is my mother didn't want to live that segregated lifestyle. And didn't live in the area where there could very well have been more, situations that were conducive to, a good time for me. But for me, I felt like I had moved into some ass backwards thinking, and also, New York thinking. I have to say that because anybody that's lived in New York, or who continues to live in New York, although it's a massive, massive melting pot, so to speak, there are certain areas where you're not welcome. I grew up in an all Polish neighborhood, and there were certain streets that we couldn't cross. And I know the folks who grew up in the boroughs know about Jones Beach and Howard Beach. There are certain places that you just can't go. Or if you go, be prepared. Okay, but I digress. So as I'm walking from my car to my office, I realize San Francisco is where I live. Is both like the Flintstones and the Jetsons. And I had to laugh to myself as I was developing this thought and this message. It's like the Flintstones and the Jetsons. It's like the Flintstones because, city workers and public health workers have determined that there is more human excrement on the streets than there is animal. And I use the polite $2 word. I could say, some colloquial English and say, doo-doo, dookie, poop. There's more human than dogs. Let that sink in. And then on the main thoroughfares, I don't even know if they're still active. They had these very fancy public toilets. I haven't been on the main thoroughfare in forever because they changed the way traffic travels down this street, and that's Market Street. And I just don't like driving Market Street because there's buses, taxis. And back in the day, it was booming because, that was one of the tourist spots. It's one of the tourist spots where you have access to the world famous cable cars. I need to say that. And then they have an antique line of streetcars, which is the light rail system that they use for a stretch of Market Street. And again, I can't tell you if they still use those because I haven't been on that street in forever. I used to work in the area, but there you have it. So we're like the Flintstones because we're primitive, and there's people living in shrubbery. There's a giant plot of land, near my office where there's a microwave tower and a huge electric grid box. So people camp out in that plot of land, and you can see human trails, going through the shrubbery. We have urban coyotes now. Didn't used to see that before. They usually stayed in Golden Gate Park and areas in the mountains, because we do have mountains near San Francisco, in a small city called San Bruno. So you see wildlife there. But now the coyotes have moved and gotten comfortable living directly in the city. So we have that. We have raccoons, we have skunks, we have possums. We have that. So, we have wild animals in the city proper. So, yeah, Flintstones. Now we're like the Jetsons because we have about 3 or 4, I lose count, rideshare services with autonomous vehicles. And for those of you who have never heard that term, driverless taxis. Now they have a little mini driverless shuttle kind of car. I think that seats up to 6 to 8 passengers, something like that. And you see those. So today, as I'm driving, now I told you I live in what's considered like the burbs of the city. I saw one of the vehicles make a 3-point turn on a very narrow street, and one of the lines, one of the autonomous vehicle companies, all their cars are Jags. Albeit they don't look like race cars. They look more like compacts or sedan type vehicles, but they're Jags. And they have the camera affixed to the top and cameras on the side. And they navigate the streets pretty cool until something gets in their way, or there's a glitch in their guidance system, and then all hell breaks loose as far as street traffic. So yeah, it's a mix of the Flintstones and the Jetsons, and just creates a very chaotic situation in an area that's struggling. The city is nothing like it used to be. And there was a steady decline, I want to say, since Feinstein was mayor. This is a city that has loved Feinstein, that has loved Newsom, that has loved Pelosi, loved Willie Brown, loved Kamala, excuse me. And it's been on a decline. Tourism isn't what it was when I moved here. I haven't seen a movie filmed here in forever. Although there's starting to be a resurgence. Yeah, the city it needs help. It's on life support. And we have another rich kid trying to run the city that's operating at a deficit.